There was no better legislator that I served with, and that's Pam Gulleson, running for the North Dakota's lone seat in the U.S. Congress. Pam, good to have you on News and Views.
Hey, good morning, Joel. And I think I know a little bit of Abercrombie trivia. I think it was the first organized city in North Dakota.
Yeah.
I think it has 58010 as its zip code.
Isn't that about the alphabet? Isn't that about the alphabet?
Well, no, it was about what their role was.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I thought it was about the alphabet, that because they were an A, they got that.
I don't think so.
Oh.
You ask him when you're there tomorrow.
Well,
That's
we'll
for
check.
the mayor.
Right now,
Question
Bill
for the
Anderson's
mayor.
in Rutland going, well, if they'd have just asked me, I'd have been able to tell you. Pam, you are one of the most active campaigners I've ever seen. And if you would have heard the conversation off air, Pam is one of the few politicians I ever know that loves to go to parades. How many have you been to already?
Oh, wow.
You and Heidi called this weekend.
Yeah, we did. I'm already
busted
starting to
my
lose track, but it's been 7 or 8 already.
And that's just the start of the parade season.
Absolutely. Well, to me, it's about getting out and meeting with North Dakotans. And you know, their community festivals. In Annetta last week, their turkey barbecue, Valley City, this weekend, Mayville, Grafton. It's about being with them. And as they celebrate their communities, and an opportunity for me to meet North Dakotans.
I want to put you on the spot. I want to invite you. What we're going to do here at KFGO, KFYR, and KCJB is try to put together the people that want to be the leaders of this state and have people compare and contrast at the same time. I know we won't be able to completely pull any of this off, but I'm going to recuse myself from that process. If you come on, now that you know your opponent is Kevin Kramer. If you come on this show on live statewide radio, I will walk out of the room. Paul Juergens will be in here. He'll amass other journalists outside of the KFGO, KFYR, and KCJB team. They'll be sitting here asking you and Kevin questions so that people can choose who they're going to vote for. Will you be willing to do that for us?
Absolutely, I will. I mean, that's why I'm in this race. I want to be able to have the people of North Dakota hear my views on issues. I think they're going to see a pretty stark difference between myself and Kevin Kramer on a lot of these issues. And so debates are an opportunity to do that. So we'll be accepting a number of debates, and absolutely, I'd be honored to be here and be part of that format where we reach out statewide.
Well, and I think it's important for the people listening to know you and I, having run on the same ticket in the same district, and Heidi and I, being siblings, that I don't need to be part of that. It's the format itself that lends weight to it. And so I'm glad to hear you say that, and I hope people understand how I'm going to play
Absolutely.
that.
And I know Paul and your news team will put together a good set of very fair and balanced questions. But, this is what we need to be doing. I think it's actually, the sad, sort of where we're at in politics today is that there's less just good discussion about issues, and so much more about these ads sort of dropping in and trying to define who people are. It shouldn't be that way. We should still be able to sit down at a table and talk about what we believe in and what are the differences.
Let's talk a little bit about that. But before we get into some of these issues, what I want to ask you is, as you prepare for this race in the fall, I mean, polls of just individuals who vote in the primary really don't mean diddly to you. I know that. I know that from my own family. But what I'm going to ask you is this: you didn't know who you're running against. How do you prepare for a race in the fall? At least now you know who your opponent is.
Sure, but I've always taken the approach that I'm preparing myself just by knowing the issues very, very well, knowing what matters to North Dakotans, knowing what's important when we go out, the kind of policy decisions that really matter. I was, obviously the Farm Bill's up this week. Critically important policy for North Dakota. That's something that I know very well. I'm a farmer rancher. I live in that world, and I understand what it means not only to the economy of North Dakota, but to the national security of this country. That's the kind of things I've worked on for the last number of months, even not knowing who my opponent is. To me, that part didn't matter nearly as much as me making sure people knew where I stand on things.
Does your strategy change, though, now that it's Kevin Kramer? And the reason I ask this is because Brian Koch was the endorsed candidate by the Republican Party. And so if I'm you and I talk to as many people as clearly what you do, I'm sensing it. I go out there and I had a young Republican from the Great Bend area look at me and say, this guy completely went around us. We didn't matter diddly to him. I'm not voting for him. He said, I may not vote for Pam, but I'm not voting for him. I mean, there's some of that out there. Are you picking up on any of that?
Oh, yeah, I hear it. Actually, I've had a lot of Republicans reach out to me and say, how can I help? Obviously, they've heard me on the issues. They like my positions, and they want to be helpful in this campaign. And you and I have always been elected in a pretty bipartisan fashion in our district, and people know that that's the way I serve. So that feels good. But, from the strategic point for me now, it's really about, demonstrating that there is a difference between myself and Kevin Kramer. You look at this issue, the group that literally funded his last week of the primary with those big flashy mailings, those 3 mailings people got. It's called Club for Growth. It was about a $70,000 ad buy. And in the same week they sent that out, they sent a press release out saying that defeating the federal farm bill was one of their top priorities. This is as a group, and that they would hold the endorsed members accountable for that vote. You think about that in terms of North Dakota. I mean, I'm running for a seat to represent North Dakota. That's what a House of Representatives is. You go there and you represent North Dakota. So it's on the Farm Bill. It's on flood protection. It's on, obviously, security for our state with our bases, air bases, and veterans. That's what you do. I don't get endorsed by groups that are anti-North Dakota issues. I would never accept an endorsement like that.
I want to get into the Farm Bill because you understand it so well, having worked with Byron Dorgan for a number of years. But
it has to be reauthorized every 5 years. So it's set to expire at the end of September. So it's critically important, obviously, that we reauthorize the Farm Bill. And so the timing is now. The Senate is moving forward with a very, I think, pretty strong bipartisan bill. It had 300 plus amendments before it early in the week. Now they're down to 10, and I think they really expect passage probably by later today. I mean, that's real progress on an important thing. Senators
Hoeven and Conrad both supporting it.
Absolutely, okay. and help co-sponsor it. As well as Baucus and a number of others. I think, it's always in true legislation, it's a matter of compromise, and they've been able to strike some ground on here. I think it doesn't have as much in target payments that Senator Conrad would have liked, but it hits to what we know are the basics, which is preserving a really strong safety net, strong crop insurance programs, which for our region are really vital, critically important. And
some of the direct payments go away.
Which
farmers, I think, knew was
absolutely. There is some reduced, I think, $23 million in reductions. About $15 million of that on the farm program side, and billion on conservation programs. So it's responsible. It's certainly looking at the need to make some reductions to meet the goals for deficit reduction as well. So I think it's a good bill. Need to keep it moving. And then obviously the House has got to move on a bill. It may not be this one, but they have got to start marking up a farm bill so we can get it to conference committee, meet that deadline.
And do something with these jobs. Do something with these jobs.
Yeah.
Let's take some phone calls with Pam. 237. We always say we love to get them in studio because then it's easier to take phone calls. 237-5948, 1-800-880-5346. Your access to Pam Gulleson begins now. Karen, you are on with Pam. Go ahead.
Hello, I'm from Central North Dakota. Are you from Western North Dakota?
No, I'm from Southeast North Dakota. My husband Bill and I and our son's farm and ranch in Sargent County near Rutland.
Well, there's some people called Heitkamp who are very fine people who are from that area.
Yeah, well, thank you, Karen. Do you have a question for Pam?
A second question? Oh, okay.
Oh, well, no, you don't get to. I forgot. You already asked one. But Rutland's a pretty doggone good town, too. Roger, you're on with Pam. Go ahead, Roger.
Good morning, Pam. I have a question for you. If elected, if you were sitting in the House now, our Attorney General is being held in contempt of Congress. Would you vote for it or vote against it?
Yeah,
Thank you, Roger.
Yeah, I don't think I'd vote for it at this time. I mean, I don't know that there's enough evidence right now. I mean, obviously, transparency of what's been going on with regards to these charges are important, but I really do. It really looks political at this point, and And
well, Fast and Furious began with the Bush administration.
It did.
They act like this is an Obama deal, but it began with the Bush administration. My problem, and here's what my sense on it is, if they disclose everything in this, they give everything, some people end up dead. I mean, that's what's stopping this. I mean, you know, there's a lot of common sense to it. That being said, I think it's the first time Obama invoked executive privilege. I mean, the first time. And it's about lives. I mean, but we can get your take on that as listeners later on, too, because we're going to open it up to that. Vern, you're on with Pam Gulleson. Go ahead.
Morning.
Yeah.
I do come from the right side of the aisle. I was kind of a Brian Colt supporter. I just want to know why, if I do, why I should vote for Pam, and what can she get done for me as a lifelong citizen of the state of North Dakota?
Well, thank you, Vern. You know, I think your point at the very end here is, you know, I said earlier that North Dakota elects one representative to Congress. It has to be somebody that knows the issues, that will stand up for North Dakota and really be a champion on these things. It's not enough to just go out there and hold the seat and vote in lockstep with either political party. We have a lot of unique challenges, and we have a long history of very independent leadership, people who just go to work for North Dakota. You're seeing it on the Farm Bill here with John Hoeven and Ken Conrad. I mean, that's what we need to be doing. That's what you'll get with a vote for Pam Gulleson. It's the way I operated as a state legislator. I really do understand what it means to govern, which means you work with people both sides of the aisle to do what's best for the citizens of your state.
All right. The next question comes from Barbara. Barbara, you're on with Pam Gulleson.
Oh, hi. I just want to, the problem with this Eric Holder thing, I want to ask her a question about this.
Sure.
Is why don't they say that this started in George Bush's term, and Reagan signed a law signed a thing into law that they don't have to give up pages of certain items if it is undercover agent.
Right.
Why doesn't that come out? And ISA has only wants papers or people to testify from 2011, and this was started in George Bush's time.
Yeah, no, I heard you, Barbara. Go ahead, Pam.
You know, and that's my concern with this. I mean, obviously, there's some incredibly important national security elements in here, and it has been a long time strategy to be able to arm people on the other side of the border to help protect Americans. I think there's no doubt in my mind that right now this has turned into just an incredible political, effort to be able to undermine the Attorney General. I'm concerned about that. So that I don't think that's where we need to be working.
But
right
I don't
now.
think it's working the way they want it.
I don't think so.
I think
and there's
that common
so
sense
many
is
more
kicking in.
things we need to be focusing on.
The other part is, you know, it isn't above either side of the aisle to do some of this type of stuff. We've seen that. But usually when it comes to issues of privacy, when it comes to national security, conservative people really understand that. And so I don't think it's playing well with their conservative base as well to try to give up some of these names and documents. Let's get to Mike. Mike, you're on News and Views.
Yeah, hi. Question for Pam Gulleson. Representation, if the majority of North Dakotans were for or against an issue, would you vote along party lines or the majority of the North Dakotans?
All right. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah. Again, here, I think you always try to stick to the issues here. You try to find, that it depends on what the topic is, but you try to find that balance on a policy that works for North Dakotans. And really, and the partisanship, we all run as under a party, but you can really set that aside as you work on issues. An example that I use a lot in 2007 session of the legislature, I co-sponsored Senator Hoeven's major education initiative. And I was one of, there was two Democrats. We co-sponsored it. It had a lot of pretty significant reforms and in terms of funding education in this state. I was proud to do that. I never hesitated for a second because it was a Republican-sponsored bill. I thought it was the right thing to do for North Dakota and for our schools.
Pam, this question, well, the other part is, if you always did what the majority said, would we have school integration? Somebody in Alabama had the courage to say, you know what, black kids get to go to school here. And they were in the minority. that day. So every now and then you can't just say, gee, this is what everybody wants, so we're going to do it. It's the first anniversary of the Minot floods. Scott Cattell up at KCJB doing a great job of getting that out this week. The question comes in by email, what will you do for flood protection? I know you toured that recently.
Yeah. I was just up there last week with Minot. Obviously, they've made a lot of progress, but they have a long ways to go. I was in the Oak Park neighborhood. There's the majority of that neighborhood is not recovered. Those homeowners are not back in their homes, although they're working very hard. You know what I would do? I would obviously work with the community to help secure some of the funding here for flood protection long term. Obviously, management of that river, working with the Corps of Engineers to better manage it, make sure that this is not something that happens again. And I know that there's a lot of work already underway. I would just stand with the community and the county commissioners as they work on those really critically important issues.
All right, let's get to Bill. Bill, you're on with Pam Gulleson. Go ahead.
What's your stand on the Canadian oil pipeline?
The Keystone Pipeline, Bill?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Pam?
I've supported it from the beginning. I understand that we're going to be a major producer of both oil and natural gas, and we need to move it. And in this case, I think most of that is allowing the oil sands oil to move through. My preference, honestly, though, is that we should be doing a lot more to invest in expanded, I think, opportunities to have our own pipelines here, to be able to support our own natural gas plants, expanded refinery space right here in North Dakota, keep the jobs here. That's my preferred position, but I'm not opposed to the Keystone Pipeline.
So if you were Barack Obama, you would approve it?
I would have allowed it to start moving through.
Pam, I've had you on many times, and I knew I had you for about a half hour today. You always said you're willing to take phone calls. In fairness to your opponent, he does too, which I think this is going to be one of the best races, because I don't see Kevin Kramer turning down a debate. I don't see you turning down a debate. I don't see either one of you having a problem being in the same room debating the issues. I think that says a lot about this race, and it's going to be fun as a radio talk show host because you're going to be open and honest about the answers. And I wish everybody were like that. I appreciate that from you. It's always easier to take phone calls in studio. So next time you come to town, let's do it again.
Absolutely. Thanks, Joel.
You bet. Well, I let other people do this. I'm going to let you do it. How do they get in touch with Pam Gulleson?
It's just PamGulleson.com.
Not Gulleson. A lot of people do that to you.
I know. GULLESON.com.
All right. Pam, thank you so much.